Okay, welcome everyone. First session in the afternoon. Hopefully you had some nice lunch, caffeinated, feeling refreshed. Not too relaxed though, because we have a lot of interesting stuff to get into. So order flow dynamics. I'm going to talk about the exclusive order flow, and especially for the smaller market share Ethereum block builders, the dilemma they face today between keeping their exclusive order flow to themselves and sharing them with bigger block builders. So we know that today, the top 2 builders build around 90% of the blocks, and we know who they are. As a smaller builder, if you only build, let's say, 1% of the market share, you can calculate this statistically. So it takes around 7 blocks for all your transactions to be landed on chain. So for some users, this might be okay. They don't mind waiting for 7 blocks to land. For the others, this might be too slow, right? So as a block builder, you want to satisfy your users. You want them to land their blocks quickly. So you have to share some of this order flow to the top builders. We all know that the key to win blocks have many components, and I'm just listing 4 of them here, which I think are important. First one, algorithm. Your block builder has to be very good at algorithm, ordering the transactions optimally, build them quickly, so then you can build a very valuable block. It also has to be very quick, right? So taking the latest bundles you receive, combining them into the block, building the block quickly, sending them quickly to the relay. You also need to know how to bid strategically. You don't want to show your hand too early, too fast. You also don't want to be waiting for too late and bid too low. But the last one, exclusive order flow, is probably the most important component out of these 4, right? Because imagine if somebody sends you a transaction, a very valuable transaction, and he only sends it to you. And you can use this transaction to build a block, and the block is going to be so valuable that no one else will be able to compete with you. So even if you're very crap at algorithm, you're not the fastest builder in the world, you don't even bid strategically, it's still likely you land this block, right? Because nobody's able to compete with 100 ETH block that you receive this valuable transaction and put them into the block. But the reality is, it's very difficult for someone to know if the order flow is exclusive, especially for smaller builders. Why? Because, as you can see, the users, including the searchers, the wallets, individuals, they tend to send order flow to different block builders because they want to guarantee their transactions will land fast enough. They don't trust one single builder. They don't want to put all the eggs in one basket. And among the builders themselves, they also share order flow, right? As I mentioned, as a smaller builder, you want to share order flow so your users can land faster. So I'm going to show a specific event. So during the 4th, and between the 4th and the 5th of August, we've seen Ethereum prices dropped $1,000. So this triggered a lot of massive liquidation events. And I picked up some of the high-value blocks. So these are all blocks that's over 50 ETH. And you can see some of the builders are listed under here. And it's around 30 blocks. And in the next session, I'm going to choose randomly 3 blocks. And I'm going to ask you to guess who landed this block. Of course, by providing you some information first, we're going to look into the block data. So, for example, how many transactions are in there, not who built the blocks, but how much the proposer received, what's the profit of the block. And then I'm going to show you the relay data to see how all the builders inside the slot bid, and in the end, what's the amount they bid to win. And lastly, I'm going to use some very confidential data from Flashbots to check if internally the Flashbots builder have seen these order flow. The idea is that if we've seen the order flow, then it's very likely it's not exclusive to the winning block builder, right? Because we are one of the top 4, top 5 builders. If we've seen it, it's likely someone else has seen it. So this is a a guesstimation. Okay, first block. No cheating, don't look at Etherscan, just see the information I provide you and see who produced this block, right? So this block has 161 transactions, and you can see the builder has received 202 ETH. The proposer received 202 ETH. The builder made a profit of 176 ETH. So very high value block, and the builder also made a lot of profit. And looking inside the block, right, 161 transactions, we can see most of the value lies on top of the block. So then I had a look at libMEV's data. The top transaction is labeled as a liquidation bundle. And this bundle is worth 155 ETH. So that contributes to the majority value of the block. Now, checking against Flashbots Builder, I have 4 categories here, right? So on the left-hand side is just the count of transactions. Right-hand side is the value of these transactions. So public means we've seen this in the public mempool. Builder transaction means it's a direct transfer to the builder, so less likely to be any kind of MEV bundles. Private seen means that it's a private transaction and the Flashbots builder have seen it. Private unseen means that we haven't seen it. So if we haven't seen it, that's more likely to be exclusive to the winning builder. And you can see that most of the value lies inside the private unseen transactions. Right, so you can see 21 transactions are worth 220 ETH. Although there's still some value for the private scene, which means that the 11 transactions are most likely shared between some of the top builders. Okay, lastly, how do they bid? They tend to bid very closely, right? So the winning bid is 202 ETH. The top bid is 212, second top bid is also 212. So they bid very closely, trying to win this block. Now let's have a guess. Who won this block? Any idea? Shout if you know. Beaver? Okay. Yes, you're right. Unfortunately, I don't have a prize. So Beaver won this block, and most likely others also have the same order flow, but just Beaver is very good at bidding. They're very fast as well. Okay, next one. This one, very different. It only has 27 transactions inside. So usually you have around, I don't know, 150, 200, 300 transactions inside a block. This block is not optimized. It still has a lot of space left. And the proposer gets paid 201 ETH. Builder made a lot of profit, 255 ETH. Looking at the transactions, we see the most value lies in the middle of the block. Again, looking at libMEV's data, a liquidation bundle again, right? Extracted value, 359 ETH. The majority of the value lies in this bundle. Okay, now this time, checking the Flashbots builder. We haven't seen any of these private transactions. The 7 transactions that are worth 456 ETH, we've seen none of them. So more likely, exclusive order flow just to this builder, right? So how do they bid? The top bid is 203 ETH. The winning bid is the second bid, which is 201 ETH. But if you can see, it's a bit small. The top bid is exactly 2 ETH above the second bid. This is very unusual. If you strategically bid, you would not add exactly 2 ETH on top of each other, right? You have some algorithm, you bid in a percentage or whatever. It's not like just exactly 2 ETH. So this looks like someone is brute force bidding on this. And you can see there's a lot of profit. So probably they don't mind just adding 1 ETH on top, 2 ETH on top, because there's still so much profit left. Order flow-wise, same thing. Unseen private transactions, 7 transactions, there was 456 ETH. So most likely, exclusive order flow to the winning block builder. Oh, sorry. Next. So now, have a guess. Who won this block? given all the information? Titan? This is a tricky one, right? It's unknown. So this is a liquidation bot, which we didn't recognize before this event. But during these 2 days, this liquidation bot has built a lot of blocks. And it seems like they only build blocks to capture the liquidation MEV opportunity. Right? So we can only identify this block builder by their pub key, which is 0x83b. And you can see, go back on the days between 4th and the 5th of August, they built a lot of these kind of blocks. OK, next one. So this one, similarly, 36 transactions. The block is not optimized, still a lot of space left. The proposer got 62 ETH. The builder had a profit of 102 ETH. Not as much as before, but still very profitable. Looking at the transaction value, again, the top transaction has the most value. And this time we look at Sorella Labs data. This is categorized as an atomic arbitrage. Right? So most of the value of the block comes from this one transaction, which is an atomic arbitrage. Order flow-wise, again, same story. Flashbots builder haven't seen these 6 private transactions. There are 30 public transactions inside the block, but the 6 private transactions are worth 165 ETH. So now the bidding is quite interesting. You see that the top 3 bids are kind of similar, and the 4th bid is suddenly dropped down to like 21 ETH. So there's a huge gap between the 4th entity and the 3rd entity. But even if you look at the top bid, which is 79 ETH, it's quite far away from the 2nd bid, 75, right? And the winning bid is 62. So the top bid and the 2nd bid are quite far away, which sometimes means that they're not chasing the same opportunity, or the order flow is not exactly the same. And the other interesting thing is the winning bid is only 62, and this block proposer picked the block at 8 seconds, which is very early. Usually, people play the latency game. If you have heard about latency game, timing game, people pick at the end of the slot. So if this proposer knew better and played this latency game, he or she would have won 79 ETH, right, rather than 62 ETH. OK, now have a guess who won the block. So it turns out to be ICANN-has block. So this builder is not a very, he doesn't have a very large market share, but whenever ICANN-has block build blocks, they tend to build very high-value blocks with very few transactions inside. So they also build a block just to capture their own MEV opportunity. They don't trust anyone else. They just want to build this block so they can capture the opportunity. They don't share their order flow. OK, so we've talked about these 3 cases. First case, most likely the order flow is shared among the top builders, because the bids are very similar. Second case, exclusive order flow. They're probably people competing for the same opportunity because the first bid and the second bid are exactly 2 ETH away. The third case, they're probably not competing for the same opportunity because the bids are very different, right? Even the top bid and the second bid are like 4 ETH away. Usually, you don't see people bid so inefficiently unless the content or the order flow inside the block is very different. So is there a way for a smaller builder to tell what is exclusive, right? Usually, it's very difficult, but it's possible that you check the past transactions and figure this out. So if I check who sends me order flow in the past, and have I seen this entity sends to other people and they landed their transactions. If not, then it's likely they only send to us, and I'm going to prioritize them. I'm going to land their transactions exclusively. So if we can look at the history, and we could build something maybe to predict, right? So I tried this approach in the past to try to predict if our builder will land a block. And if the probability of our builder landing the block is very low, then we're going to share this order flow, let someone else land the transactions for our users because we have no chance of winning. So here's an example. I used 3 days of data. It's very data intensive because for every slot, every builder has to produce hundreds of blocks, right? Many simulations. So 3 days data is probably 20 million rows of data, a lot of data. And I include in the calibration some of these factors like what's the top bit from all the relays, what's the bit that our builder has produced, and what's the timestamp of these blocks when they were built. And I throw them into this model. You can see, you can build a decision tree, right? You can see what are the rules and to decide, when should I multiplex. But there's also a way that you could try to optimize the model by minimizing your false positives. False positives is just the way that you trying to predict, but actually trying to predict something that to be on chain, but actually it didn't land on chain. So if this number is too big, you are overestimating your winning rate. If this number is too low, which is the false negative, then you're being too conservative. So you try to find a balance between these two and customize your threshold. Although we have this method, but it's not very good, right? Even though it produces a statistical way to predict, you can tune them using confusion matrix. You can change the decision, calibrate them pretty regularly, right? Every 3 days, every 1 day, whatever. But it's data intensive, and the calibration is heavily skewed because as a smaller builder, you have a binary event to forecast. Your land-on-chain sample is going to be significantly smaller than your not land-on-chain sample, right? So for anyone who builds classifier, there's an unbalanced class problem that you have to use some technique to handle. Also, the results are sometimes very volatile. It gives you a tree, a decision that doesn't make sense at all. And lastly, you're only training this locally, which means that you don't have other builders' data. You're only training on your own builders' data. It's not going to be accurate. So is there anything else we could do? We have all these intents. We have the smaller neutral builder who wants to just land their user transaction quickly, maybe win some market share. We have these searcher builders who want to land their MEV opportunities. I kind of categorize them into 3. The neutral builders, they don't care. They just want to win market share. Their order flow are likely to be shared. The searcher builder who wants to capture the opportunity probably don't want to share order flow either because they're competing with the other searcher builder. And then last one, you have this one that probably 2 different builders, they're competing different opportunities. So in the current world, they have to compete and outbid each other to land a block. But in reality, if they knew somehow their opportunities are not conflicting, they can put these bundles in the same block without reverting. So they don't have to outbid each other and pay the proposer an enormous amount. They can just collaborate, right? That's the ideal solution. So there are some ideas that we've thought about internally in Flashbots. I don't know what's going on. Right, so, okay, back. Yeah, so the first one is that, I still have 1 minute. The first one is that you design something that's a second price auction. So you can say that there's some kind of invisible coordinator who will pay the difference between first price and the second price. So your builders or your bidders don't have to overbid. They just bid their true block value. And whatever is the difference between the first price and the second price will be refunded back to the winning block builder. Or the second case, you're not competing for the same opportunity. You just want to combine them together to build a very valuable block that can satisfy everyone's needs, and then you are very competitive compared to the other blocks. So you win, and then you can refund back whatever the winning block value is and the second best bid, because you just overpaying a little bit of the 21 ETH to win, right? So you don't have to actually pay 25. So internally, we've been thinking about all these ideas. Maybe we could have a decentralized block building. Many parties build blocks jointly inside a trusted execution environment where your privacy is preserved. You don't have to review your opportunities, but at the same time, you can share your order flow, coordinate the bids. And then, as I mentioned, with the second price auction, you can get some refunds, so everyone's better off. Okay, I'm running out of time. Stay tuned and come brainstorm with us. If you have ideas, talk to me. Thank you very much. Question? We don't have time for questions. Okay, one question, if there is any. Yes.
Regarding the machine learning model, did you filter on like high-value blocks only? Because you said you had 2 days of data or 3 days of data, and that was a lot already. But wouldn't it make sense to like filter out only the blocks that actually have high MEV value and use that data only to predict? Because it doesn't really matter if your block has low MEV value if you land it or not, right? Or it's less important at least.
It's actually the other way around, because to win market share, you have to win the smaller value blocks. So we care about, like when I build this model internally, we care about increasing our market share. So most of the block is worth less than 1 ETH. So actually you have to include those with lower value in the calibration. Yeah.
Because otherwise you will never get the high value ones in.
Exactly, and we're not able, because Flashbots builder is a neutral builder, we don't search, we don't run trading strategies, we're never going to be able to produce that kind of high value blocks. Yeah. Okay.